Welcome, revolutionaries. You are joining episode 205, part 2 of the Secret Service episode. If you have not listened to part 1, episode 204, we recommend starting there first. Thanks for joining us.
Customer service, done right, can be your company's single biggest competitive advantage. Welcome to the Customer Service Revolution. Join customer service authority and best-selling author John DiJulius as he interviews leaders who are revolutionizing their industries. This is more than a podcast, though. It's a movement. The Customer Service Revolution is a radical overthrow of conventional business mentality designed to transform what customers and employees experience. If you are a revolutionary customer service leader who's ready to stop competing on price and obsessed with building a brand that people cannot live without, this podcast is for you.
What if you've never had contact with them before? They're new, but they have a scheduled call, so you know who they are. What are ways that you can provide secret service?
Say that again?
I said, without necessarily being a stalker.
Right. So first, I think, this goes with anyone that's on, you have a scheduled appointment with, whether it's last night before you wrap up your job last night, meaning 5, 6 o'clock, or first thing this morning. Right? We look and we say, all right, I have a 10 o'clock with a Zoom. I have an 11 o'clock with an existing client. I have a 1 o'clock with someone new. So you go and with your existing, you go to your CRM system and you look at the Ford, look at the secret service of what you've collected in the past. If you don't, where they're from, what city, what they're a fandom of, anything that you may have. And then with new and existing, if you don't have enough, is LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn is fantastic for this because, I can find out, where you're an alumni of. People are huge fan. Oh, you're an alumni of Northwestern. How's their, football team going to be this year? And just as important, if not more important, your mutual connections. That really is important because now, I see that so-and-so. How do you know him? I love, him, and he's such a good guy, so genuine, and, you like him too. And you're asking me how, oh, we've been working with him. He's been a client for 3 years. All that just establishes credibility that, wow, he's worked with you for years. You must be good. It's so easy today. If you take the time. And then, like I always say, there's a gift in every conversation if you're paying attention to it. So that's why you want these Ford pads. So, she's going to, Scotland, or she's running her first marathon, or, whatever. She just has taken up pickleball. She's just joined a novice pickleball league, right? You could do so many things with that. It could be as easy and it takes 30 seconds, is when you hang up, sending them a link to, all right, you told me you're a runner or biker. Here's some great trails, paths in Scotland while you're there, because I know you love to ride or this, or an article or a book, pickleball, or, whatever that may be. I mean, this stuff takes literally, less than 30 seconds. You Google it, ChatGPT, and they forget that they even shared that with you, but they end up receiving in an email, or maybe it's a package, a paddleball and a little pickleball set, all depending on what level of customer or potential customer they are and what you want to spend. But, to me, just, someone sending an email with a link to something that we talked about that isn't something they can benefit from, right? We're not selling paddles. We're not selling, but I cared enough to send you a link about how to run your first marathon,
I think that's really important, that it's not something that benefits you. It's something that benefits them, making it personal that way.
Yeah, I always, say that, we should know our, more so probably in B2B world, business to business, is we should know our clients' top 3 goals, ideally personally, but professionally. If you really get to know them, yeah, personally, but professionally, the ones that outside of what they're hiring us for. So, and then you can send them all these things, articles, books, resources, them achieving their goals, but it's nothing you can actually do for them, but you're really demonstrating, that you care about their success in ways that can't come back to directly benefit you.
You just brought up their goals, and you were holding up the pad before, the Ford
Yeah.
pad. For listeners who aren't familiar, can you explain what that is and what Ford stands for?
Yeah. Family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. And we just talked about this yesterday in the CXEA of that should be on each stage, each touch point of your customer journey of trying to collect and utilize Ford that anyone on your team has gotten from that person. Most cases, it doesn't have to be even asked. Now, if you're having a long meeting or discussion, yeah, there is the small talk. Denise, are you married? Do you have kids? What grades are they in? What activities? And all that. But in a lot of cases, that wouldn't be appropriate if someone's calling to schedule an appointment or a contact center. But if we listen, right, and you do hear that dog barking in the background or the baby crying, or I say, how about you want a manicure? You're asking for a manicure. How about Thursday? You said evenings. Thursday evening, we have one at 5:00. And you say, no, my daughter soccer team made it to districts. She has districts that night. Boom, catch that, record it, wish her luck. And maybe we schedule it for the following Tuesday, her manicure. But when she comes in, someone at that salon should be saying, how'd your daughter do? And you're like, at what? At soccer, district. Oh my God, she won. How did you know? You're a favorite customer, right? And another question we get is, doesn't that creep people out? No, I've never. Now, obviously we have to, maybe coach people on, where to draw the line. But on these things, no. I mean, people are just blown away in the positivity of, that you remembered that my daughter, has, plays soccer or, pets should be part of Ford. That should be part of family. I mean, people who have pets, 9 times out of 10 are, would probably grab their pet before their significant other if the house is burning down. I'm all about, if I hear a dog barking, what kind of dog is that, Denise? Boy or girl? Is that a good breed? And just let them tell me all about their pet. And, now I'm going to ask them the next time or send them something from Chewy's.
In the old days, I remember in the salons that there would be a printed sheet. So you would look at your day and it would list out your clients, and it would have the bits of Secret Service that were pulled from the system on the sheet. With the changes in technology, has that been updated? What kind of systems?
Yeah, not only the salons, but
now to share
all
that.
of ours, what's ours? HubSpot. We used to use Salesforce, the salons that you just, everyone has an app today. So they can just scroll and say, my calls with, my next appointments with, and, all of these, I don't believe we've ever come across a client in any industry, banking, to retail, to anyone that has a CRM system that isn't, you can't add a Secret Service /Ford field to. That is accessible, but it could be as easily as, just looking up their last visit, their last purchase and saying, Denise, did anyone notice the highlights that you got last month? Oh yeah, I got so many compliments. That right there makes you feel like a VIP. I might have just started last week and am just checking you in. But it's right there in front of me besides, or in the business. Did your leadership team enjoy the order of the employee experience revolution that I can see that you purchased a dozen or a case last month? It just demonstrates that's such low-hanging fruit, and it matches all the criteria. No cost, simple to do, zero impact on productivity. There's always a lag in a conversation face to face or, especially over the phone. And so, you could look at things, but it also goes back to what you asked earlier of do a little homework. And this homework is literally minutes of looking up on their LinkedIn or looking in your CRM system, to see where they're from, how long they've been a client, what their last purchase was, or, any forward that you may have on them.
I know pushback can occasionally be, it takes time, not just to use the information once it's in there, but mainly putting the information in there. I think that's probably the biggest struggle that companies have, is making sure their people put the information into the system, because you hear things all the time, right? So, I mean, having a pad right there is nice, but the information still has to go into the system. And any tips, tricks that you've heard companies use that work well, or that ensure that people are
brushing your
including
teeth
information?
takes time, right? And we're all so busy. But it really,
Are you saying you haven't done yours yet today?
I'm really busy, but no, it's just a habit of, as soon as you're done in that interaction, you just update it. Unless you're in a retail environment and someone's literally waiting for that, that's understandable. Then you wait till, you're done for the day. None of this stuff should take, more than a few minutes to update that she's going to Scotland. She's running her first marathon, besides, because if you're not doing this, you suck at your job. Not what I'm talking about. What everyone should be doing is updating the professional side, right? She's thinking about attending the customer experience executive academy. We talked about that. So, I want to have Claudia follow up with her the next time. I want to ask her if she got approval, right? We better be doing that. So if we're doing that, or in a salon, we're updating her formula or what we did this time, and that she's growing her hair out, so the next time you come in, you just don't assume it's the same old and you whack off the inch, right? So God, I hope if you're a good professional, you're updating the professional side. So to also add in there, she's going to Scotland, running her first marathon, has a dog named Trixie. It literally has to be 10 seconds.
Learn live from John during our upcoming workshops. Visit the DiJuliusGroup.com chart membership to register today.
What about huddles?
Yeah, so that's another thing. If you have huddle, you can say, hey, we have, a busy today, and, we have 3 VIPs coming in today. We have someone coming in celebrating their, wedding anniversary, or her boss, because she just accomplished a big project, bought her a day of pampering. Now when you come in and, you as the esthetician say, congratulations, what a good boss, man, great job on the project. She should hear that every person she comes in contact with. Same with us. You're great at it. Lindsay's great at us, saying that, one of our clients won an award, or, whatever. And so not only the next time we communicate with them, but hopefully we're emailing them congratulations, or, ran the marathon. Anything that we find out, we are good at sharing that with our team members. So it's not just the relationship. So let's go back to mastering the Norm factor. I always say it goes 2 ways. Norm wasn't only loyal to Cheers because they knew his name. Norm was loyal to Cheers because he knew Sam and Carla and Woody and Coach and all the people. And so that's why I always say, the more people on our team that our clients know, no one fires, I'm sorry. It's easy to fire a company. I'm so sick of dealing with Comcast or Spirit Airlines. They're unreliable. They're blah, blah. They're a big company. They, make too much money and charge too much. That's easy to do. But I don't want to fire Denise, right? Denise is so nice. I'm going to give Denise the benefit of the doubt, or Denise and Lindsay and Claudia. God, they've been so good to me that, while I'm not happy what's happened lately or this one time, I'm going to get, you don't fire people you like. And that's why I always reference that the norm, mastering the norm factor from Cheers went both ways. Everyone knew his name, but he was familiar. So the more people that your client, guests, customers can get to know, the less likely they are to fire you, because it's a community and we're all starving for communities these days.
It's so true. Even I noticed this on our trip, even in short visits places, to stay at a hotel and the bell, I can think of one in particular. There's a fabulous hotel in Dublin, the Shelbourne, and the bell person who took our luggage to start with started a conversation with me as we were waiting to be checked in, and found out little bits of information. And it seemed like he was always at the door when we were coming in or out, and always had something to say. And it could be as small as, where are you off to today? Or what did you do in the city today? Little things like that, where he always had more information. By the time you left, we were attached to him as much as the hotel itself.
Yeah. Yeah. And director of first impression, right? And last impression. Something that is probably one of the hardest industry to deliver Secret Service and forward is like a retail environment, a coffee shop, a place that you're just running in and buying product, because you don't have an appointment. And in most cases, they probably don't have a CRM system. They don't say, what's your name, to pull it up. So some Secret Service are obviously, if they're regulars, getting to know and learn their orders, but that's only going to be a fraction of who walks in the door. So something that I learned, like with, working with Starbucks and the Chick-fil-A's of the world, is they would know if you're new to their business, or if you're just sick of the same old. And that is when you'd walk in and you'd stare at the menu behind them, right? Because like, if I was going to Starbucks right now and you wanted me to get you something, what would your order be?
My order would be terrible.
Yeah. And
I'm
they say,
how high maintenance my order.
right. They say your order shows what a diva you are, whatever. But rattle off.
I order a grande flat white with an extra shot, 2/3 decaf, and soy.
So whether you're going through drive-through or you walk inside, where on the menu is that?
I know where it is on the app.
Okay. But on the menu, you don't know.
No.
Right. And that's why you walk in and rattle it off. I couldn't tell you, and it's not all there, but I couldn't even tell you where the lattes are versus the thing, because I know what I want. I walk in, and I just went to Starbucks before this podcast and got my venti mango dragon with a water base, not lemonade, boom. I don't know where that's,
The water base.
Yeah, a lot less calories.
Yeah.
Geographically on the menu, I don't know where that is. So if I walk in and I'm staring at the menu, that tells you, the barista or the person working at Chick-fil-A, that I'm not a regular, right? Or I am so sick of my same old and I need something new. So it's a different prompt. Is there something you're looking for? Do you want to know what my favorite is? You can just tell, and that's a silent cue or a visual trigger, right? Of reading what the customer is doing, teaching employees the silent cues and visual trigger.
That's a podcast for another day too.
Yeah.
Visual triggers.
Yeah, I forget about Secret Service, and it has like a cult-like following. I just spoke in Nashville recently to ophthalmologists, and this, this happens surprisingly more times. And a gentleman came up to me and said, I read your Secret Service book over 20 years ago. And I've reread it. This is literally word for, because I've reread it 3 or 4 times since then. And every employee has to read it. And I always kind of cringe. I don't know why, but I'm like, oh God, that book came out in 2003. I had no experience outside of the salon industry. Wasn't really a speaker I was a speaker, but really only inside the salon industry back then. Hadn't worked with any companies that we've worked with. And I always cringe, and I'm like, God, like what could be? I don't even know what's in that book. What could I, God, no, you got to read the Customer Service Revolution or the Relationship Economy today, that has come out more recently. And but people have like this just attraction. And so I forget about, Secret Service. And really it's what made our first business, John Robert Spa, what it is. And they're still using those same techniques today, 32 years later. The simplicity of it and the genius of it. And I didn't create it. I just learned it from other people. It's just so valuable that I love revisiting Secret Service. And I realize, shame on me, like I've gotten away from, some of it.
While you may not have created the systems that you wrote about, you did write about them in a way that makes it easy for people to understand and duplicate. And I think it is a great frontline book. It's also one of those, you read these things and it's this just simple, brilliant aha. And you're like, why aren't we doing that? Why haven't I thought of that?
I had someone say, instead of aha, it's a duh.
Yes.
Like a stupidity, like Jesus, like why didn't I, think of this? This is so obvious. And again, I didn't, it was ahas and das for me that I just codified and did put into a book. But it was the Ritz-Carlton experience, or I think I heard this from David Wagner 30 years ago. And it's what led to a lot of these things, but when he arrived at a Four Seasons hotel, the valet or bellman, he pulls up in his cab, opens the trunk and pulls out the luggage and says, "Welcome back, Mr. Wagner." And he said, how did you know it's me? Oh, we pay attention. Come on. He says, no, I'm not going, until you tell me. I'm a business owner and I want to know. Well, we have a system. What's the system? Well, when I pulled your bags out of the trunk, I looked at the name tags. He goes, okay, that's great. You knew I was David Wagner, but you said welcome back. We have a system for that. He says, every day, we have a report that prints out of all the guests coming in, and there's a star next to the new ones, and there's something else next to the returning ones, right? He's like, that's incredible. So he goes in, goes up an escalator, and he gets to the front desk, and the receptionist says, "Welcome back, Mr. Wagner." He goes, wait, hold on. How did you do that? I have my luggage in my hands. Oh, she goes, we just pay it. He goes, no, I want to know. Well, the bellman called me up and told me you were on the way up. Right? I mean, it's just such does, right? That why don't we do that? It's the warm transfer, in that kind of environment.
Yes. Yeah. Beautiful things when service can run together that well. Before we wrap today, I want you to talk about one last thing, and that's Secret Service. Used to be, when we had our conference, it was the Secret Service Summit, and Secret Service was the book. And we used Secret Service a lot more than Customer Service Revolution. But we changed it. Talk about why.
Yeah. And I also forgot that, the kind of the definition of Secret Service is the ability to collect customer intelligence and to use that to get them to say how they do that, how they know that. But yeah, so back then, Secret Service was bigger than myself, right? People knew more about Secret Service than they did about John because of the DiJulius, the book. So that was our first 10 years, close to a decade, it was the Secret Service Summit, and the literal Secret Service contacted us, and they couldn't have been more polite. They said, would you consider changing the name? And, which was flattering that we had grown and gotten, big enough that we were on anyone's radar. And it was that in conjunction with a conversation I had with one of my neighbors who's a really successful business person. And every year when the Secret Service was coming, I'd say, Jeff, I want you and you bring your leaders. I'll give you a couple complimentary tickets to my Secret Service Summit. And he, the first couple of years, he just can't go. And then finally one year he said, John, I got to be honest with you. I don't understand what I can learn from the Secret Service. And I was blown away that he didn't understand what we meant by Secret Service. So that really is what propelled me or us to, it was just, if you weren't familiar, if you hadn't read the book, if you weren't in our community already, Secret Service by itself didn't tell you what it was. So that's when we decided to change to the Customer Service Revolution, because obviously if there's a Customer Service Revolution conference or whatever it is, you understand what the topic is. We're Secret Service by itself. But it's very near and dear to my heart because it is really what not only got our first business off the ground and all this crazy exposure, which then led me to my speaking career. But it's just, it's just a great tool to use that can really differentiate yourself and allow your employees, it's not only about, giving your employees another thing to do. It's the reward of the employees, what they get from it when they see that reaction that a client, you made them feel like a VIP, or you made them, their first visit feel special, or you remembered that they work at Progressive Insurance. It's the daymaker dopamine is really what makes the employees enjoy what they do. So you're giving them tools to have more employee satisfaction. That is easy.
For anyone that is curious about our conference, it has now morphed into the Experience Revolution. And I'll put information about that in our show notes, but the Experience Revolution is now a quarterly event that you can attend with your team and learn different pieces of the DiJulius Group methodology. The upcoming one is June 9th, and it is on becoming a zero-risk organization. Also in the show notes, I will include information on how to purchase the Secret Service book, which is still in print, for anyone who is interested in reading it or passing it on to your frontline team. John, before we close here, what is the one time or most memorable time someone has used Secret Service on you?
I've had a lot, but I'm going to say the two that come to mind, same business, Nemacolin Resorts out in Farmington, PA, and well, the one time was when we showed up, me and Stacy, and we checked in. They congratulated us on our anniversary, that why we were there, and I don't remember telling them. And then when we were escorted to our room by the bellman, and they opened it, there was rose petals all over the floor and a bubble bath and candles. And Stacy just, looked at me and said, "Oh my God, you're the most amazing husband." And I'm like, "Yeah, I am." And I honestly think I forgot that it was I didn't forget it was our anniversary. I don't think it was our anniversary week then. I think it was like, our anniversary was a month ago, and we had said, all right, when, what are we going to do for our anniversary? And that was the first weekend, which would have been 4 or 6 weeks later. So I forgot that that's why we were going, but they saved my ass, and I looked like a champ, and it worked out pretty well for me. So little things like that didn't, then make me look at the bill and when we checked out and say, "Oh my God, they charged us, these outrageous fees," which they do, but it was well worth it.
And yeah, cheers to Nemacolin Woodlands Resort. They do a fabulous job. Great service all the time.
Yeah.
Thank you, John, for your time today.
Thank you. It was fun reminiscing about Secret Service.
Indeed. Listeners, take a look at the show notes again for information on the upcoming Experience Revolution, as well as information on the Customer Experience and Employee Experience Executive Academies. Thanks, John.
Thank you, Denise.